everyone, Heather here with astrologyofheather.com, and I just wanted to pop in real quick to let you know that the video you're about to be watching is actually a clip from our Navigating the Big Picture webinar that I did with Raphael, who's a super talented tarot reader from Reydiant Reality Tarot back in 2020. That's when it was first recorded. You can access this entire webinar for free by heading on over to my Cosmic community and starting your 7-day free trial membership, my gift to you. And so without further ado, let's watch the video. So I'm gonna wait for Raphael to, I think he's here because he's typing. But yeah, so Pamela just said something that I thought was really cool. She says, we must all visualize keeping and expanding our freedoms in the light positively. What one focus upon manifests, so keep those positive, happy, clear, and in the light juices flowing. So I love that, Pamela. Absolutely. So that's something right now, especially focus on what we want. These are just the potentials, you guys, and this is the most likely potential based on where we're at right now. But other things can happen, and this isn't like a full scale. Like, a lot of things are going to happen in all of these years. We could talk about each year for like several hours. So yeah, so let's kind of shift back into this. So Raphael, 2022, Jupiter year 6. And for this one, actually, I would love if we could pull some cards after we talk about the numerology, just for the general energies of the year, because I think that might be helpful to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So a 6-year Jupiter ruled, I think this is going to be a much easier year. I think it's going to be a lot slower. I actually feel like as well, one of the lines that I put in the stuff that I wrote is, this is where we take collective responsibility on an outward level. All right. So this is where, you know, we could see a lot of advancements when it comes to the environment, how we're treating it. I think this is going to be a great year where we're a lot more conscious of not just our carbon footprint, but our human footprint. How we've been treading on the earth, what the impact has been. I think we could really start to see a drive towards looking after. So all the people that get left behind with the crypto stuff that you talked about, I mean, and fantastically so as well. I think in the 2026 year, this is where, I don't know if any of you ever saw Divergent. 2022 is going to be the year that is ruled by abnegation. Right, those people that are the caregivers, those people that look after the poor, that feed the homeless, all of that kind of energy, very much going to be prevalent here in the 6th year. And what I like about it as well, I think we're going to see a lot more. So 2021 is going to see you kind of expanding this idea of your local community. 2022 is going to start to see you really build on that idea of family, harmony, home, how you integrate your family into your village. Like, we've become very insular because of technology, right? And I think 2022 is going to take us out of that. I think we're going to see a lot more hands and feet in the dirt. You know, maybe a bit more of a tree hugging energy. That's just my personal hope, because I'm like a real nature baby, and I think we're going to see a lot of drive towards that kind of energy, which is lovely. I think we're going to really see a lot of people caring more about the natural world, and I think we're going to start to use that connection to the land a lot more. So it's funny because there's a lot of people here in the comments that were talking about, you know, I'm starting to grow my own food, which is great because you're using that mercurial energy now, right? The North Node in Gemini, you're using that now to learn those skills, to get used to this idea of growing your own food and stuff. 2022 is where we're going to start to see that be like a really popular idea. I think we're going to be a lot better in terms of agriculture. I think we're going to see a lot of really amazing developments there where we are being kinder to our animals, where, you know, an interesting, you know, we talked about the dark sort of greasy stuff around the, you know, children and all the rest of it. I think 2022 is where that stamp of you do not cross this line, because if you do, you're going to see Mama and Papa Bear like you've never seen them before. I think 2022 is going to put that sanctity back in place. I would love to say, and I kind of feel like it might be the case, where, you know, the whole human trafficking, all of that sort of stuff, where it all comes to an end. you know, where we've seen it. It's all very much outed. It's no longer a conspiracy theory. It's now, you know, everybody knows about it, and, you know, everybody's keeping a weather eye to make sure that we never have that kind of energy again. The other thing that I saw for this year was the care of and the deeper research into mental health, how you know, how human beings are affected by everything that we go through. I think we're going to see a lot more of a balancing energy here as well. So, I mean, I don't know what it's like in the States, but here in the UK, if you're a guy, you know, above the age of 19, you're on your own. Like, women can tend to get housed, you know, like the state will step in to help them, you know, they'll put them in shelters and hostels and stuff. Guys, oh well, you know, you're a guy, just deal with it. I think we could see a balancing of that kind of energy, where we start to look at people as a whole and say, right, how can we help these people that are on the fringe? I think not necessarily an end to homelessness, but certainly a real understanding of the fact that we need to fix this. The system in that regard is broken. What are we going to do to fix it? One thing that I did talk about with that, though, because 6 has kind of like a Cancerian energy in that way, where it's very sort of mothering, it takes responsibility for things, it wants to nourish and nurture, but it can be quite smothering as well. So we could see that kind of return to the nanny state almost, where, you know, maybe people in place of power or governments kind of say, oh, so what they want is for us to look after them, you know, and under the guise of that, again, we could see that kind of Jupiterian energy where it goes too far, where they're kind of like, okay, so we'll give you this and this and this, but that means that you've got to do that, that, and that. And it's like, no, because that's still the old system. You know, it doesn't work that way. We still want something that is, you know, that's beneficial for all people, but it still has to be better than what we've had previously. One of the things that I put here is, if you find yourself in some kind of hardship in 2022, and there is a lot of stuff on offer, it might have things attached to it. You know, there might be strings attached to those things. So if that is the case, if you can refuse the big string, the chip, I love a gadget. I'm an Aquarius, but no fucking way. I am, you know, I'm not for tagging and bagging. No way. So yeah, my advice to you is, if you find yourself in that situation, your family, your local community, and what's taking place in the interactions there is likely to be just as beneficial to you than anything that the state can give you. And if you have to rely on the state for anything, take what you need and then emancipate yourself as soon as possible, so that you don't get into that dependent kind of energy. And then finally, I put ways to succeed here. Are really, 6 is a very selfless energy, because it's all about responsibility. It's about doing for other people what they can't at the time do for themselves. Like, one of the beauties of the 6 energy, it's kind of like, you find a bird with a broken wing, right? You nurse it back to health. Once the wing is healed, you then got to let it go to fly. And if you can kind of put yourself in that bracket as well as other people, we all stand a much better chance. Like, do what you can, but don't do for people what they can do for themselves, because then, again, we get into that sort of nanny state kind of energy. And then finally, I'll leave you with this, because I saw it on a meme not too long ago, and I was like, holy crap, that's a 6 year in total. Is they asked like an old shaman, what is poison? And he said, well, poison is when you have too much of anything that you don't need or you can't use. And I thought that was perfect, because that's what we're living in now, right? The time of excess. We've seen, and you know, I still eat meat, and I wish I didn't, but how we treat our animals in the process of creating that food for ourselves is just absolutely like devastating. Sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional, because I know like a lot of people think, oh, Raph, pull yourself together, but it does have an impact. We're talking about sentient beings, and yes, you know, they are food to us, but they're alive, and the way that we treat them through the process of sustaining our human lifestyle is so deeply wrong, and it's really upsetting. It's very disturbing to me. And actually, I predicted this for a lot of people. By the end of 2021, going into 2022, I think we'll see a lot more vegetarianism. I think we'll be doing away with a lot of the meat, which is where the synthetic meat and stuff comes in. And 2022, alternative methods of clothing. I think we're going to see different fabrics, you know, things that are kind of not only to the planet, but also to our physical bodies, and also to the animals that we rear. So that's in a nutshell.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes so much sense to the biggest astrology of the year, which is Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces, right? And so we talked a little bit about this in 2021 with Jupiter moving into Pisces. One of the biggest things that's happening this year is that conjunction. And Pisces is all about charity, compassion, feeling for other people, feeling for other beings, knowing that everything is interconnected. And so this would make sense. I was actually thinking about this for like launching my own charity organization for like an animal rescue. Like 2022 seems like maybe a good year because of that conjunction, right? And someone else is talking about animal rescue in the chat. So I think that animal welfare, of course, will be a bigger issue, human welfare, and the way that we treat other people in our society. I think charity organizations will start to like explode everywhere. Like everybody's going to be wanting to give back and to help, especially after coming out of such a difficult time period. Yeah. And in terms of like the animal welfare, yes, I think that a lot of frankenfoods and synthetic vegan foods will be happening. But one of the things that I was also talking about is the movement toward regenerative agriculture and smaller agricultural systems and more localized agricultural systems, in which case animals are treated much, much better, and they're an integral, like really important part of that system. And one of the things that we've lost sight of that I think is going to come up during this time period is probably a spiritual connection to our food, a spiritual connection to everything, but a spiritual connection to our food. And so for those of us who do eat animal products, which I do, I was a vegetarian for 10 years, but for health reasons, I eat meat, but I choose it very carefully. One of the things we've lost sight of in our society is back in the day when you would hunt and kill an animal, there was like a ritual around the preparation. There was prayer involved. There was ceremony. There was such deep like reverence for that animal's life and so much gratitude. And that is so important. Like you're infusing the food you eat with that energy. Are you infusing it with like, this is just something I'm eating and it's slop and it's just whatever and I don't care about it? Or are you infusing it with like, oh my goodness, this animal gave its life for me. I'm choosing to eat this very consciously, and I'm choosing to, you know, if I'm taking this animal's life, I'm making sure that it was treated well. I'm making sure that this is for a purpose. I know that this is nourishing my body and this is a sacrifice, right? Like there's a difference, a major difference between just eating random stuff and doing that.
I mean, yeah, you've just blown my mind, because it's really funny. That's kind of what I was thinking when I was speaking about it. And you've literally just given voice to all of my thoughts. I mean, it's crazy. That was amazing. And yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I think that idea of reverence for what you eat, for how you nourish yourself, I think that is going to really come through. And I think as well, that's another thing that we're going to see in that responsible sort of Piscean, Neptunian energy as well. I think we're going to see this idea of, you know, if I wouldn't feed myself this, I can't feed it to somebody else. And if we're do you know what I mean? Like all of those things. Yeah, I totally agree. It was just a really wonderful thing to hear you talk about. Thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing it up.
When you want to, do you want to pull some cards now?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's get some general. Let's do general first.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
All right. So for 2022, look at that, the 10 of Pentacles. I mean, this is amazing because this is the card of material wealth, true material wealth, you know, not just stacks of money in the bank and a fat mansion and cars. It can represent those things for sure. But when I think of the Ten of Pentacles, one of its deepest meanings is true material security, where all of your mortal, perishable needs are truly met. And then on top of that, you've got this idea of a true family unit. When you look at the Rider-Waite deck for this card, it's got old people in it, it's got a married couple, there's kids, there's the dog. It's like that whole collective unit. So that Ten of Pentacles as a general energy tells me that this is where we're going to start to glimpse. And it won't be that we're there. It will just be that glimpse of, you know what, we've got a chance here to really start driving the world towards something better for all of us. And that's a really beautiful energy. The Three of Swords comes up next, which is going to highlight to us what needs to be let go in order for that utopia, in order for that new world era for all of us to come through. It's going to really highlight to us what has to be let go of on that like bigger, broader collective level. And then we've got the Devil card. Isn't that really interesting, right? So you've got the Ten of Pentacles. This is what we're heading towards, what we all truly want. The Three of Swords, well, in order to get that, you're going to have to let go of the Devil card, which is Saturn, Capricorn, all of that kind of energy, you know, the hard stuff where it's all just about the material, where it's all just about the wealth and everything's done to excess. I think the biggest thing that 2022 is going to show us is how to truly understand the energy of moderation, what it means to live within your means. And when I say like live within your means, I mean our collective means. Do we need, you know, supermarkets throw out how much food a day? And they're on another part of the continent, somebody else is absolutely starving and dying because they don't have any food. I think we're going to see a massive restructuring of all of that. And the number 2 itself is all about balance. It's all about harmony. It's all about finding that even keel. You think we've got 3 2s there, right? 2022, and that combines into that 6 energy, which is, you know, Jupiterian, that higher ideal, that bigger, broader perspective where we can say, okay, you know what, let's do something better with this. You know, let's find a way that we can evolve this in some respect.
Absolutely. I love that. And I mean, this is kind of an energy that's very connected to a lot of what has been put in place in 2020 and especially 2021 with Uranus conjunct the North Node in Taurus. And so I think we'll see a lot of changes in the way that we deal with our food supply and the food supply chain that were set in motion in previous years, where I agree. I think that we're going to be looking at waste. I think that there's like going to be an excess of food in some areas and there's going to be a depletion in other areas. And we're going to look at how we can kind of make the changes that we need to make, right? To bring that back into balance. So yeah, I love that reading that you just gave. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. So let's, so 2022, I just pulled up the conjunction between Jupiter and Pluto for this one, because this is kind of a big energy. Yes, of course, eclipse is hitting Uranus. That's going to bring a lot of change for a lot of people, fixed sign people. This will be a big change year for you guys. So kind of keep that in mind. You have 2 years that are kind of crazy, but this is a year where like you'll be propelled into just everything you're trying to build in 2021 that's frustrating you. It's like all of a sudden you're just catapulted into it in 2022.
I love that.
So it'll be nice, but also a lot. But I love the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, or sorry, the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. In the sign of Pisces, because it's so nicely aspected. So one of the things that I was concerned about is like, yeah, excess, overindulgence. We'll see some of that, of course. And also savior mentality, savior consciousness. Somebody mentioned Neptune being connected in Pisces. Pisces and Neptune are poisons, pharmaceuticals, vaccinations, oil, you know, medicine in general, you know, is ruled by Pisces. There's a fine line between a medicine and a poison, even when you're looking at something more traditional in terms of medicine, right? A lot of herbs you take, like you can take a little bit, it'll help you. You take too much, it becomes poison. So it's similar thing, similar mindset there. And so I think there's going to be an expansion on that, but I think there's going to be an expansion on a lot of different types of cures and treatments and things like that that might actually be beneficial because of that Jupiter energy. And what I love is a sextile of Pluto. This is a discerning energy. We're being very careful as a society where we're placing our energy, what we're expanding on when it comes to helping people and when it comes to the betterment of society. All of that loving, compassionate, spiritual energy is being channeled, and it's being channeled intentionally. It's not just like, I'm going to overdo it and I'm going to overindulge in everything and I'm going to escape and this person's going to save me, that person's going to save me. Yes, we'll see a little of that, but I really love that this is more focused, and it's like you have all of that beauty and that idealism, but you understand where to direct it. That's really what it's like.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Absolutely. And I think anywhere as well that you have Pluto, whenever Pluto's involved, you get that kind of, I see it as that almost like that deep sort of excavation, right? Where you go so deep into something that you just have to see it exactly as it is, rather than how you would like it to be. It cracks,
Yes.
it cracks you open, doesn't it? Just to say, right, what is the truth here? What is the truth of the potential that's here as well? I think that's the other thing with Pluto. It kind of shows you what the potential for something is. Like, how can this be used in a better way? I think when you see that, like with the atom bomb and stuff, like you crack the cell open and you have all of this amazing potential energy. If we can find, in a 2022 6 year, I think we could probably see us using that energy in a better way. One thing that I will definitely say, I think by the time we get to the end of 2022, oil will be done.
I would say that would be it would be moving in that direction for sure.
Yeah.
Probably by 2024 with that Saturn, and I think this is probably the beginning of that. It's kind of like we're looking at things that are better, or better ways to use those types of resources. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the beginning of the end with that. Somebody wants to know, what about art and music with Jupiter and Pisces? I mean, I personally think the arts are going to flourish. We're going to need it at this point. Like, people are deprived of like going to the concert, going to the theater, going to see art. Like, it's just like, it's all on the internet right now, right? I think that it's going to flourish. This is going to be a time where if you are an artist, this is your time to shine. What do you think about that?
Yes, absolutely. I think we're going to see an explosion. All of, let's say 2021, I mean, from now right through until the end of 2021, I think this is where so many people are writing books. So many people are writing plays. They're all using that energy that is kind of pent up and locked inside of them. And I think if you're an artist, if you're a creative, if you're an intuitive, I think that you're right. This is going to be your time to shine. And I think we're going to see this. I think it's going to be like another Renaissance. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just going to be like this explosion of color and art and, like artsy types walking around and, talking about all kinds of crazy stuff that is wonderful, that really kind of gives us a bigger, a broader picture of the beautiful things that we can create out of the crap that we have to come through.
Absolutely. Yes. So I love this for artists. A lot of people in the chat are artists and they're happy about this. Diane is a writer and her husband's a musician. So get creating now, because this is like the period of launching that is 2022 for sure. If you're feeling inspired. Okay. So yeah. So let's move on to the next year, because we got to get into this here.